The Wranglethorpe drifted silently in the dead expanse of Sector D-29, just another smoldering carcass in the aftermath of a skirmish that had gone sideways for everyone. Hull plating floated nearby like metallic flower petals, and ion scoring traced charred tattoos across what remained of the frame. The readouts were clear. No power signature, no heat, no life signs. As far as the Eschar were concerned, it was nothing but another ruined relic of human stubbornness. Aboard the Eschar light cruiser Aelithis, Sub-Officer Kryn chewed at the edge of one mandible and squinted at the sensor feed. "Dead?" asked Commander Selketh, looming over her shoulder. "Dead, sir. Hull temperature is 3 degrees above cosmic background. No EM emission. Structures shot to hell. Internal bulkheads look collapsed." Selketh flicked his tongue in thought. "Begin salvage protocol. Might be useful scrap." Across the void, a small skiff detached and began its slow arc toward the floating husk of the Wranglethorpe. Automated arms prepped to latch onto the gutted hull. Back on the bridge, the Eschar crew chatted casually, some already logging the recovery bonus into their personal records. None of them noticed that inside the Wranglethorpe, a dozen indicator lights blinked silently behind armored panels. Deep in the pressurized core of the ship, Commander Halleck lay on her back, tightening a coolant line with a handheld wrench. "How long until they bite?" she asked. "Docking skiff just left their cruiser," replied Bramble from the cramped sensor alcove. 15 minutes until they're sucking on our belly." "Status on the setup?" "Power's cold but pre-routed. Reactivation will take about 6 seconds. Shields will lag 10, maybe 12. "Fine. Don't get shot in the first 10 seconds. Got it." Halleck slid out and banged on the wall next to the ship's systems core. "Vargas, you got the remote relay locked in?" "Inspired by a coffee machine and an old garage door opener, but yeah," Vargas replied. "One button and we're alive again." "Radio's dead?" "As a doornail. All they'll hear is static and regret." Bramble snorted. "We're seriously calling this Protocol Goose?" "No," said Vargas. "It's code Spaghetti Possum. I put it in the log. Protocol Goose makes more sense. I refuse to fight about naming conventions while hiding in a fake corpse." At Halleck's feet, a squat black and white dog wearing green-tinted goggles gave a soft woof. Halleck glanced down. "Yeah, I know, fiddlesticks. We're all going a little stir-crazy." The interior of the Wranglethorpe, what remained of it, was a marvel of desperation engineering. The outer hull had been jettisoned days ago and left to drift in a loose, realistic cloud around the pressure frame. That frame had been coated in radar-absorbing scrap, structural shavings, and the burned-out corpses of 2 drone satellites. From a distance, it looked like a derelict. From up close, it looked like something best left untouched. From inside, however, it was a working war rig with a crew of 5, a half-functional autocannon, and a dog with night vision. Back in the salvage skiff, Eschar Officer Rolth prepared to clamp onto the hull and initiate standard boarding procedures. His 2 crew floated in zero-G harnesses behind him, scanning for unexpected movements. The Wranglethorpe did not move. "I hate these things," muttered Rolth. "Humans always booby-trap the weird ones." "Looks inert, though," said his technician, already powering up the cutting tool to peel into the maintenance port. "Still, wait, why is the hull that shiny underneath?" Then the outer plating moved, or rather it vanished. What had looked like slag and wreckage peeled away in synchronized bursts, shooting outward like petals blowing off a flower. Underneath was a compact, sealed vessel with 6 visible thruster nozzles and the faint shimmer of rapidly warming metal. On the salvage skiff's instruments, power readings spiked. Fast. Too fast. "Abort! Break away!" Rolth shouted. It was already too late. The Wranglethorpe flared to life. Systems that had been hibernating in low-draw ghost circuits surged awake. Lights came on. Thrusters flared. The docking hatch cracked open, inward, and 5 humans in tactical suits launched through the connected tunnel like bullets from a railgun. They hit the skiff's crew before anyone could unstrap. One Escher went down immediately, disarmed by a flying tackle from Vargas, who used a handheld plasma welder like a makeshift baton. Bramble emerged behind him, already rewiring the skiff's comms to jam outgoing signals. Fiddlesticks leapt in next, goggles glowing faint green in the dim red lighting, and latched onto an officer's leg with a growl that could only be described as sassy rage. On board the Elethis, alarm klaxons suddenly sounded. "Commander! Salvage team has gone dark!" "What?" Selkith turned toward the screen. "Unknown power surge from the human ship. It's active. It's boarding us." How are they boarding us?" "They're inside their own ship!" Correction, they were inside. They're not anymore. Back on the skiff, the humans moved fast. The airlock had been hacked, the boarding bridge secured, and Bramble was already pumping interference codes into the cruiser's system, using a cracked fleet-issued datapad. "Nice guess on their door codes," Vargas muttered, hauling Fiddlesticks off the yelping Eshar. Wasn't a guess. They used their ship names in reverse as default access. Real imaginative bunch. Seriously? Don't question the dumb things that work. Inside the cruiser, red lights strobed. Eshar officers barked over comms in increasing panic. One visual feed showed a figure climbing out of an access shaft, clearly human, just before it cut to black. Another showed the unmistakable blur of a dog in goggles sprinting down a hallway with something clamped in its teeth. Then silence. Static. And somewhere on the Eshar command net, someone just barely calm enough to transmit, said, "I'm sorry, they what, their own ship?" Sub-Commissar Gillex sat stone still in the command office of Fleet Relay 09R, eyes fixed on the holodisplay. His sensory vents fluttered in irritation every time the replay reset. A salvaging operation, a clean dock, a perfect setup, then chaos. He jabbed the pause command again, freezing the footage mid-frame. It showed a blurred figure mid-leap across the salvage skiff's airlock, arms outstretched, plasma torch in one hand, mid-shout. Behind them, another human was clearly mid-laugh while a small canine, wearing green-tinted goggles, bounded forward with a wrench clamped in its mouth. "Commander Selketh is missing," the adjutant said quietly beside him. Gillex didn't blink. "Presumed dead?" Possibly. Possibly just locked in the mess hall. "The mess hall?" "Yes, sir. The humans left a sign on the exterior camera feed, written in marker. It says, 'Occupied, do not poke the beehive.'" Gillex blinked slowly. What in the dead names of the first brood is going on? The adjutant cleared his throat and tapped a data slate. "They've submitted a formal incident report." "Who has?" "The humans, sir." "You're telling me they filed paperwork?" "Yes, sir. It's labeled as a Field Recovery and Equipment Transfer Authorization Form, Section 3, Hostile Asset Requisition. They named the Operation Surprise Divorce." Gillex exhaled through every vent at once. The playback continued. Disorganized scrambling aboard the Elethis, shouted Eshar orders overlapping human banter, a sharp scream of confusion as someone yelled, "The dog is wearing goggles!" followed by crashing noises and finally the unmistakable thunk of a boarding clamp slamming shut. Silence. Then static. Gillex muted the feed and opened the incident report. At the top, in distinctly human handwriting, was a doodle of what might have been a smiley face vomiting. Below it, a bullet point summary in appallingly casual tone. Salvage protocol initiated under false distress. Surprise boarding executed. Minimal resistance. Thank you for that. Bridge secured within 11 minutes. Remaining Eshar crew safely confined in mess hall. Ship now under temporary human jurisdiction. Original vessel being towed for sentimental reasons. Attached was a second file labeled Funniest Damn Combat Logs. Gillex did not open it. Aboard the former Elethis, now temporarily designated the Wranglethorpe II. This time it's personal. Commander Halleck sat in the command chair, rotating slowly as she sipped from a plastic bottle of orange energy drink and stared out the main viewport. Behind them, their original ship's stripped-down pressure hull floated quietly, now tethered like a glorified cargo container. Bramble was on the bridge, fiddling with the Eshar star chart systems and renaming constellations. Vargas was in engineering, arguing with the reactor core about safety overrides. Fiddlesticks was asleep beneath the communications panel, his goggles still on, snoring gently. "Mess hall still secure?" Halleck asked. "Yep," Bramble replied. "They tried to open the door 5 minutes ago but gave up after I started broadcasting 20th century Earth cooking shows at full volume." "You're a monster." "I prefer the term strategic sadist." Halleck leaned back. "System status?" "Operational. We've got partial access to their nav AI. Weapons are locked out but can be retooled manually, and I've disabled their long-range distress beacon." "And fleet?" "Unclear. But it's a long jump to their nearest patrol." Vargas's voice crackled in over comms. "Hyperdrive is not happy, but it'll hold. Kind of like me when I'm given decaf." "Understood," Halleck replied. "Prep for departure. Set course for GC-controlled space. Let's deliver this baby to someone who will either court-martial us or give us medals." "Can't we get both?" Bramble asked. Fiddlesticks woofed once in agreement. Across Galactic Confederation space, word of the incident spread like radiation through a leaking containment field. Escher Fleet Intelligence initially refused to comment, until the human crew publicly released the operation's data footage. Anonymized, of course, mostly. Within a week, military academies across 4 species had begun to include the phrase, "They what their own ship," in tactical simulation courses. It became shorthand for any unpredictable, wildly effective, and borderline insane maneuver that no sane tactician would ever plan, but a human might. In private, analysts began using a new term, Wranglethorping. A side note was added to the Escher Fleet's doctrine database. Note: when engaging human vessels, confirm destruction via thermal, EM, kinetic, and internal biometric readings. Visual debris alone is insufficient confirmation. Also, always check for dogs.